Hey everyone, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie Jessica. Yes.
So once again, it is time to do our Bestie Book Tea, where we review all the books that we read this week and spill the tea on it. So make sure to grab your favorite drink. I have water today. What do you have,
Me
Mandy?
too.
Yay! And let's sit down and discuss the books that we read this week. So before we get started with our books, let's do our thing. What is it called? Our reading challenge.
The ultimate reading challenge.
Yay. So what was this last week?
This last week was find and read a book that is much longer than your usual reads.
Yay. We both did that.
I did.
Okay.
Are we ready to open?
Hold on. No, I'm not. I got too much stuff here.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Got it. Right there.
Well,
okay.
I can't open upside down, apparently. I don't know how to.
I can. But I can't get my finger. I took my nails off this week. Now I don't have nails to get in anywhere.
They're little book stickers, so you could gift books
cute.
like to and from. Those are adorable.
That's cute. I'll have to use that for your birthday in April.
Yes. I could use these for myself. To Mandy.
To Mandy from Mandy. Give them to the husband. Make him do it.
Oh, that's a great idea. I will do that.
Yeah.
Okay, our next challenge is read a book you selected based purely on its cover design.
Oh, well, that won't be hard.
I'm excited about that one.
You cannot read the same book over and over again because you like the cover model and you know which book I'm talking about.
The Anti-Stepbrother?
Yes!
Dang it!
Sorry, it's not going to happen. Or at least it shouldn't. I mean, I guess you know what you do, what you want to do there. That's okay. I'm going to let you do it. Okay, so let's see. How many books? So tell me about your reading week. How many books did you read? What was your reading week like?
Okay, I read 16 books this week. As you know, I'm participating in the Novellathon. So all of my books, except for my long read, have been novellas.
Okay. And they were good?
Yes. Surprisingly, yes. There were a few because I'm doing the Novellathon. There's like the bingo board. And so there were some where I'm just like, I don't know if I'm going to like this, like the monster one. Yeah. And I talk about that in the novella video. So I will tag that here. But yeah, I was actually surprised that I enjoyed most of them. And I had a 5-star read this week that is now on my favorites. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I know. I've got that ready to read. You said, and that one was free through Audible, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
and
so I'm going to get that one.
Unlimited, yeah.
Yeah. I read 13 books this week, but only 4 of mine were novellas because I couldn't let you read all the novellas. So, and I was like, oh, I've got to read a few of those for our video that we're going to do on novellas, our top 12 novellas. And so most of mine were full-length audio, or full-length reads, I should say. So, Mandy, tell me about your first book. So we're gonna do just 5, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So my first book was Keeping 13 by Chole Walsh. This was my long read. It's very long. Mm-hmm. And this is the follow-up to Binding 13 that I talked about last week. It's a 4-star read. It's book 2 in the Boys of Tommen series. So this is Johnny and Shannon's like the second part to their story, and it focuses on the fallout from what happened to Shannon at the end of the last book, which I won't talk about right now, and Johnny's rugby injury that he was dealing with from the very beginning of Keeping 13. So it's really hard when you read a really long book and then you read the next book and it's a really long book, not to give away any spoilers. And I definitely don't want to do that because I really enjoy these books. Even though they're a little long, they were really good. I love some of the side characters in here. We have Claire and Gibbsy. They are so funny. And I really hope that Chole Walsh someday writes them into their own story. I know she took a break from writing and she just came back and she has the 3rd book out in this series, which is going to focus on Joey. And I'm very excited to get my hands on that one too. There's very serious topics in this book, but she also weaves in like hilarious moments in the book that just have me cracking up as these characters interact with each other. And you really just kind of feel like you're right there in the midst of all of the stuff that's happening with them. Absolutely loved it. She also, though, brings up some like really good points that bother me. I mean, I'm a mom of 3 boys, so this might be why I think about this a little bit more. But in the book, Johnny has a kind of an ex fling that they weren't really in a serious relationship, but they were, doing it for a while. And Bella was all about just kind of his like rugby career and didn't really care much about Johnny himself. So whenever he starts to be in the spotlight, she wants to be all over him. And she doesn't take well to the fact that Johnny doesn't want anything to do with her anymore and that he is really all about Shannon. And she advances on him a lot. And he actually makes the comment, like, if I told a girl, or if a girl told me no while I'm touching her and I kept doing that, like, this would be horrible. Like, the consequences would not be okay. Like, but yet it's perfectly fine for her to continue to act like this with me and no one even bats an eye. So I think that's like just something that, you know,
Mhm.
you don't really see that dealt with in books very much. And so
No.
I liked that that was brought up, that like he's trying really hard to be respectful of her, but she doesn't respect any of his boundaries. And if the roles were reversed, that would like be a big no-no.
Mm-hmm. Big time. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. That doesn't normally get addressed in books at all when it happens, because it happens quite often in books. So
Mhm.
in life in general, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So my first read was Throttled by Lauren Asher. And I've had this book for a while. It's a racing book. It's about racing, but I chose it because there were 4 or 5 authors this last week that had their books removed from Amazon. And Lauren Asher was one of them. So I wanted to support her when it got backed up, but it was due to piracy. So the story behind this, and have you seen this at all?
I have not, but I also have not read a racing book.
Yeah, I was thinking
You
about
really
you.
should.
Yeah, but no, like, okay, so I think I sent you on Instagram. I think I sent you the link to sign a petition for this. So what this is these authors, indie authors, will post their books on Amazon in Kindle Unlimited. When they have their books in Kindle Unlimited, that is their bread and butter, and they're not allowed to have their books anywhere else. Like that legit is just where it's allowed to be, is on Kindle and Kindle Unlimited. So they can't market them anywhere else. So then you have people who will pirate books. They'll use like a bot or however they use it. I can't remember how, but they get them actually off of Amazon, and they're able to pirate these works off of Amazon. When Amazon finds out, they punish the indie authors and remove their books off Amazon, when it's Amazon's fault, because Amazon needs to have stronger guidelines, like stronger ways to get the books so that doesn't happen. But indie authors get punished by having their books taken down, and then they have to like petition to get them back up. So that's what was going on this week. There was a handful of authors. It happens quite often. It's not their fault that the people pirate their books. That's just ridiculous. So anyhow, I bought the book.
Wow.
Yeah, I bought the book, and I actually bought the book and the audio that just came out to support her. And there were other authors as well, but she was the first one that I saw, so that's what I did. So this one, honestly, though, I think you would like it. You probably like it a lot more than I did, because it's formula. Well, it's because racing, and your husband races.
Yes.
And so it's Formula One racing, which is fine. I enjoyed the racing aspect of it, but it's about it's a brother's teammate romance. So
Ooh.
yeah, both the boys are racers. Okay, so Noah is like this Formula One, racing god. Like his dad was a Formula One racing star. He's won several. I don't know. Do they win cups? I don't know. He's won the races. He's won the big ones before. He's world champion. I can't remember what you call it. And then you have Maya, whose brother has been brought on the team. There's some bad blood between Noah and Maya's brother, but Maya has just graduated college, and she's not 100% sure what she wants to do with her life. And so, using her degree, she makes a like a video, like a vlog like this, where it was supposed to travel, because she's going to travel with her brother around the world to all these racing events. And so that's what it starts out as. But as we get going, then she'll start to interview like her brother and the guys on the team and on the racing team and stuff. And she gets a lot of followings from that. So that's what's going on with Maya. So she meets Noah. They have their connection, and when they start seeing each other, she doesn't want her brother to find out because there's bad blood between the brother and Noah. And she just doesn't tell her family. And it was a good story. I was just kind of bored. Like, I didn't feel the relationship. That was the thing. Like, it could have been better because the relationship, I just didn't get it. I'm like, where's the attraction? It was a slow burn, but there was no burn at all to get to the relationship part. But I will say, like, I gave it 3.5 stars. It was a good story. I just didn't feel the connection. I will read the next book. I've been told that the next books are good and they're better than the first one. The first one was just not as felt out as it should have been. Like, the relationship just wasn't built enough for me, at least. But I still think you should try it, Mandy. Okay. Especially with the racing aspect. But I'll read the next one and see how I like it, and then make a definitive decision. There's another racing book that I'll send to you too that I just downloaded that I want to read. So yay for racing.
So my next read was The Bookstore Sisters by Alice Hoffman. This was a 4-star actual listen. It is on Audible or on KU, and I decided to listen to this one. It has 2 sisters, Isabel and Sophie. This is all told, though, from Isabel's point of view. They have a major falling out, and Isabel leaves and goes to New York, and Sophie stays behind and tries to continue to run the family bookstore. And Isabel gets a letter in the mail that just says, help. And she decides to go back to her hometown, to where her sister is, and see what's going on. And this book it's short, so there's not a lot else to tell about it, but it's about forgiveness, it's about healing, and it's just a reminder that when things happen in life, we all kind of deal in our own ways, whether that's right or wrong. We all just kind of deal with stuff differently. So it was a really great read about that sisterly bond. They had a really tragic falling out, so yeah, it was short.
It was short. It's perfect. It was perfect. Novellas are short. They're great. Sometimes they're awesome. Okay, so I was telling you about this one earlier in the week. So because you saw it on Goodreads, but my next book was The Librarian and the Orc by Fenn. And yeah, so this is the 3rd book in her Orc Sworn series, and I've read the other 2 before, and I know Mandy's over there like, oh my gosh. Honestly, though, it's good. It's really good. There's great plot in these. These books are thicker, not like 500 pages thicker. They're thicker. They're all told from the point of view of the heroine, but they're interesting. So this one is about Rosa and John, and I don't know how he's the only orc in the whole dang series who has a typical human guy name, but he is. So the orc's name is John. So Rosa is she doesn't have family. She was raised like in this, and these are historical. So I mean, kind of, but they're historical. So she was raised like in an orphanage, and she doesn't have she doesn't have like my dad would say, she doesn't have a pot to pee in, and so she just doesn't have any money. She's poor. She lives in the library. She runs this library at this college, but she's not allowed to go to the college because she's a woman, and we don't let women into college at this point. And because she's poor, and at this point she's having a relationship with the man who runs the college. I think he was a duke. I don't know. He had some pedigree to him. She has a relationship with him, but it's not like a real relationship. It's just she's the side piece, and he's trying to find himself a wife. So she's really intelligent. She writes the guy's papers for him that he uses for work and for all this stuff. And in the previous books we've seen, just recently, there was a what do they call it? There was like a peace treaty between the orcs and Orc Mountain and the people in town. And the guy comes to her and says, the Duke or whatever the heck he is comes to her and was like, I need you to help me find a way to break this peace treaty. And so she is doing research trying to figure out how, like, how they're going to break it, how to make it look like the orcs have done something bad so that they can break it. And while she's researching, she hears something in the back of the library, and she goes back there, and there's just this orc reading a book in the library. And things progress from there, and he takes her to his mountain, and she meets the other orcs. I do have to say, the one thing about these books is, as fun as they are and as crazy as they are, there's a lot of bodily fluids.
Oh gosh.
A lot of bodily fluids. And I'm like, it gets to a point where I'm like, again? Or I'm like, ew, no, I wouldn't do that. No, just no. So just know that they're fun, but there's a lot of bodily fluids. And they're not hers. They're his. So.
Please stop.
Your turn!
Okay, so I talked about this book in my Novellathon video that I did, and I'll link that, but I'm going to talk about this book again just because it's my 5-star read and my like favorite read of the year so far, so I feel like I need to talk about it again. So it's Evidence of the Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This follows Carrie and David, who just discover that their spouses are having an affair. So it's set in the later 70s. I think it starts in 1976 is when the letter writing starts. And Carrie discovers some letters from David's wife to her husband that are very sexual in nature. So she realizes, like, oh my gosh, my husband's having an affair. This is like earth-shattering. So she decides to write to David and let him know, like, hey, I think our spouses are having an affair. And this is their story. So they write letters back and forth about this affair that they're discovering and what they discover in each of their own households. And so they kind of become a source of comfort for each other. And just saying that, this is not a book I typically would have read. I really just don't care about affairs in my romance. And I was like, I don't know. But it was also an Audible, and I had to do a lot of driving. So I'm like, well, I'll just listen to it. And I was not disappointed at all. It doesn't really feel like a novella. It's not boring at all. It just really it has the plot, it has character development. You really feel for the characters. And when it ends, you're like, what? And you can't stop thinking about this. So it definitely has full-length feels to it. And I want to just like use all these adjectives to describe this book, like amazing, brilliant, but it truly is. Like, I absolutely loved it. And I'm definitely going to be going and checking out more of Taylor Jenkins Reid's work after this. Have you read anything by this author?
I don't think so. I've heard of the author, but I haven't read. Is she going to be at either events that we're going to this year?
I don't think so. Not that I remember. I can double check that, but
yeah.
I just found that she had a ton of other books and she has like a lot of reviews on them. So I was like, oh,
yeah, I'll have to look. I don't think like her name, I recognize her name.
You may recognize the author's name because some of her books are being made into movies. I was trying to find some release dates and it looks like they're upcoming pretty quick.
Okay, cool. I'll have to check it out and see.
Yes.
So, my next read, yeah. So you and I both love Cora Reilly a lot. Mm-hmm. So I read her two books. I don't know why she split them in two. That is my first thing. I'm like, why were these split in two? But I read, By Sun I Rise. I was like, by Virtue I Fall, but that's the next one. By Sun I Rise. So she has two books. So you can put part 1 here and part 2 down here, however you want to do that. But
okay.
Okay. So, because you'll be editing this one. But I read both these books. I love Cora Reilly so much. And when I was watching other people like review these books last year, whenever they first came out, I was going, no, they're just being too picky. No, they weren't. So the books, I gave them 4 stars. I enjoyed the story. But this is the kids. So these are the kids of the Born in Blood and Cumorah Chronicles. So this is the next generation. So this book is about Maddox, who is the son of the president of the Tartarus MC. And we see that in Luca and Arya's second book. Luca gets in a little tiff.
Don't give anything away. I'm not on to their second
anything.
book.
Nothing you can't find out that you don't already know. Luca has a temper, right? We both know that.
What?
Luke, please. So he has a really bad temper, as we both know, and he went on a little bit of a murder spree at the Tartarus MC. It's not nothing you don't. It's good. We're not giving anything away. Anyhow, Maddox was the 5-year-old son to the leader, and he saw all of this.
At 5?
Huh?
At 5?
At 5.
What is wrong with Luca?
Luca didn't know he was there, I don't think.
Okay.
He was hiding. And this stuff doesn't you don't read about this until the very first chapter of this book. So this is not something that comes up in Luca and Arya's book.
Okay.
But anyhow, so this is about him, and then this is about Luca's daughter, Marcella. They call her Marcella. But it's Luca and Arya's daughter. And so for Maddox, he has been wanting to get revenge on Luca his whole life, ever since this happened. So he and his uncle, who is now the president, or he was the president.
Oh no, I see where this is going. This is awful.
He was the president of the Tartarus MC in Texas, which is where Maddox ended up going when all this happened, because they were in New Jersey, and so they moved to Texas when this happened, him and his mom. But him and his uncle decided that they're gonna kidnap Marcella and get revenge on Luca. And so that's what sets up this book. The storyline was fine, and it was great and all. There were just some choices that were made in the second book that I didn't necessarily agree with, and it wasn't as dirty and gritty as Cora's books typically are. It read more like a YA book. And I've seen that people say that several times, and I was like, no, there's just no way. And then I read it for myself and I went, oh, yeah, I see it. I still enjoyed it. I still gave it 4 stars. It's just not what I expected from Cora. Doesn't mean I won't read everything she puts out. So that's all good. So I will read the next one and the one after that and the new series coming out. It just wasn't what I was expecting. So I still say read it, because I love being back in that world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm working my way through that series, but I've taken a break for too long from it. I need to go back to it.
Yeah. You had to read all these novellas. I mean, hello.
I know. I've just been caught up in all this other reading that we've been doing. And it's like, I just need like life to, I don't know, not like I need a 2-week vacation just to read.
I need one of those too. Let's do that.
Yes. Let's.
Yeah, let's. Okay, what else you got?
Okay, so my next book was called Cupid's Peak, which I read for the Novellathon because it was the group read, and it's by Lee. I'm thinking her last name is French. It's like Jacques. I don't know. I'm so sorry for butchering it. It was a great steamy read. It's part of her Holly Night series, like Holiday Night series. And this is about Mia. She is an introvert. Oh, and it obviously centers around Valentine's Day as the holiday, Cupid's Peak. So this features Mia, who is a self-proclaimed introvert hermit. She just would rather not be around people very much. She lives in Colorado, and Cupid's Peak is like a ski area there, and there's this big fancy restaurant that her sister had reservations for Valentine's Day, and her sister tells her, my plans got changed, so I've now set you up on a blind date and you're going to Cupid's Peak to have dinner. And she's like, but it's Valentine's Day. And she's like, nope, you got to go. No more scheduling your O's. That's exactly what she says. You have to have spontaneous O's. You're going. So she decides to go. A little thing about Mia is she still has a major crush on this guy, Eli, from high school, who is now a famous hockey player. And so she kind of feels like we never would have worked out anyways because he's in the limelight all the time. And I would rather, just stay at home. I work from home. I don't like all that people-y stuff. And so she goes on this blind date, and guess who her blind date is? It's Eli.
Ooh, shocker.
Yeah. So this is a very hot, steamy novella, and it is got some very risque scenes in it, but it was a super fun read for Valentine's Day. She has a ton of other books in this series all around different holidays. So I'm looking forward to reading some more of them because this was a really good read.
Okay, so for my next read, I did a reread for my last two. I've read this book before, but I was in the mood for some historical, and I'm not typically a historical reader. Like, I have a handful of historicals that I'll read, and that's about it.
I know. I'm surprised that you have a historical to reread.
Well, these are all by the same author, so it's so I read. So this is the author is Maya Banks. This one is In Bed with a Highlander. So this one. Don't laugh. It's still good. But anyhow, this is one that
I'm just like, it figures this would be your historical romance.
I mean, it speaks to the Highland dancer in me. I'm all about that. I don't read a lot of like Highland romances, but this one works for me. Okay, so this one is a part of a trilogy. So this is the first one. It's three brothers, and they all get their women, basically. But this one is, I don't want the glare on there. This one is about Marion. Marion is the illegitimate daughter of the king who was killed not too long before. Somebody else is reigning now, his brother or something. And when her father died, she was put in an abbey. So she's been raised in an abbey by a bunch of nuns. She is the heiress to this fortune, basically, that her father left her when he passed away. And so whoever marries her, once she has their first child, then that child will inherit all of that. And so the man, because, this is back in the day, the man has control of that. So whoever marries her basically inherits a fortune and gets rule over a huge chunk of Scotland. And so if it's the laird, whoever it is. So she's at the abbey, and this guy comes in and takes her from the abbey. He's not a good guy. He's a dick. So he takes her. And she's kidnapped, and she's heading to his estate. And as they get, they're on their way there, and along the way, they find this little boy who tries to steal one of their horses. And so she takes that little boy, and she's like, no, you're not touching this kid. He's like 5, 6, quizzes him what happened to him. He got, lost when he was supposed to be staying close to home. And so she protects the kid. So they get to this guy's estate, and the guy immediately brings in the priest and is like, I'm going to marry her. And when the priest asks her, do you consent? She says no. And Mr. Dick beats her up. And so she's laying in bed, beat up. And then a woman comes in and is like, come on, I can get you out of here. And so they quickly get her out of that estate. And she's beaten severely and on a horse, which is just killing her. And this little boy really takes care of her. And then his uncle finds them and takes them home. So he is the son to a laird, a good guy, at a different castle. So along the way, as they're trying to get to the estate, she tells the little boy not to tell anybody what her name is. Because if his dad, who's the laird, or the brothers hear her name, they're going to know who she is, and they're going to know what's at stake. And so she doesn't want anybody to, love her because want her or force her to marry them like the other guy did because of who she is. And so that's basically what sets up this book. I loved it. I love this one because the little boy is absolutely adorable. His mom had passed away when he was little or when he was born. And so this is like a mom for him. And I love their relationship. I love her snarky comments. She's cool. She's cool. And so when she meets the laird, who is Ewan McGregor, he's a little jaded. But he's fun. I just like these ones. These are fun. These are fun, and I get through them fast, and I wish Maya Banks had more of these.
All right, so my last read is the Sweetheart short stories by Lacy Williams. She has, I think there's like 8 or 9 of these. And by short stories, I mean short stories. They're like 30 to, I think the longest one was like 70 pages. So they're really short, quick, fun reads. They are all done in third person, which normally I'm not a huge fan of, but in this short story vibe, I really didn't really notice it much. So I think sometimes third person really just has to do with the person's ability to write third person, where it doesn't sound like he said, she said, next, like that. So this doesn't read that way. And all of these books are called like must love something. So like must love football, must love bull riders, must love stargazing. And they're just fun, quick little reads. They're not too smutty at all, but they were still really fun. So, like the football one is about Nicole, who's working at the soup kitchen, and Rhett is this famous quarterback who comes in to help. And then there's like TV crews and everything. And he really feels a connection with her. So, this is like their little story and him trying to connect with her because he's trying to find Nicole, the volunteer, and he struggles to find her a little bit. So really good, cute little story. The Bull Rider, Must Love Bull Riders was probably one of my favorites out of the series. This had to do with Maya, who's a single mom, and she meets Wade at her son's kindergarten, like parent, like what's your parent do that night? You know what I'm talking about? Where like the parents come in and
like
Career Day or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think they actually had a title for it, but Wade comes in with his little niece because his sister is really sick. She's taking chemo right now, and so she's very sick, and he's helping. And so they connect there, and it was really sweet. So I just really enjoyed these. They're short, like I said already, they're very short, sweet little reads, but they were fun too. So they would be a good palate cleanser as you like to read in between your dark reads.
Yeah. Those are always kind of fun because then they get you out of your funky mood and you can just jump right next and back into that dark stuff that you were reading before. So.
Yeah, and you don't have to dedicate a lot of time because they're super quick, so you can kind of just get that little refresher and move on. Yeah. I just devoured them as part of the Novellathon and just enjoyed them.
Yeah. Okay, so for my last read, I read another Maya Banks. So this one is Highlander Most Wanted. So Maya Banks has 2 series that are Highlander series. So the one is the one that I showed you guys a minute ago. It starts with In Bed with a Highlander. And then there's this one. And this is book 2. And you really should read book 1 before you read book 2. Book 1 is like an all-time favorite of mine. And it is Never Seduce a Scot. This is what that one's called. So you should always read that one first. But this is supposed to be a 3-book series. The 3rd book has been written for like the last 5, 6, 7 years, and she lost her publishing house or something. I can't remember if it was the publishing house or the editor. I think it was the publishing house, and they owned the rights to the books, and so it still hasn't come out. Now it's saying it's going to come out in 2024, published by Avon, but I'm not holding my breath. Anyhow, these are great books though. So this one is the second one. Like I said, you really should read the first one because something happens at the end of the first one that leads into this one. But this is about Genevieve and Bowen Montgomery. So Genevieve was on her way to marry the guy that she was arranged to marry. Her parents sent her out with her wedding party, and she was going to go to his estate to marry him. And along the way, she is attacked. Her whole wedding party is slaughtered, and she is taken captive by, again, a Mr. Dick, a really big,
horrible
jerk. And this doesn't happen on page. This happens before we find out about it very early on. But he is like this sadistic bastard, and he keeps her for himself as prisoner, as a sex slave, basically, for about a year. And that's where our story starts. We find out that he didn't want anybody else to look at her, and she is this gorgeous, gorgeous woman. So he scarred the left side of her face with a knife. He cut her face so that people wouldn't look at her. He didn't want men looking at her. So when the story starts, that guy is no longer in the picture. He's been killed. His father's still roaming around, but he's been killed. The lock has been left without a laird to rule it. And so Bowen Montgomery has been sent in by his brother, who was the one who killed the other guy. And he is going to be the laird of this place instead for his brother during this time. And so he meets Genevieve. So she is not from that family, that, you know, that lock that's full of these people with all the same last name. She's not from there. So she's treated pretty poorly because she's considered the whore, even though she had no say in what happened to her. And so Bowen sees that very early on, and he tries to correct that. But this is their story. She's hurt. She's been through hell. So this one has obviously trigger warnings for assault in this one for sure. But she's been through pure hell. And Bowen comes in, and he's like the playboy of the family. Like, he's bedded all the lasses, and, you know, he's had fun. And but there is something about her right away that he can tell. She's been through a lot, but, you know, there's just something there. So I love these books. I love them so much. Like, I want to read the whole series this week. I probably won't, but I want to. That's all that we have for you guys. If you want to hear about the other novellas that Mandy and I both read during the week, check back on, is it Thursday?
Saturday. Thursday will be your journal, your bullet journal.
Oh, my yearly bullet journal. Yeah, I can't wait to show you guys that one. So check out
I'm
Thursday
excited
to see
for that video too.
I know, so that you can start one. But check in next Saturday for the video on all of the novellas that we read, because novellas are fun and they get you ahead of that Goodreads goal, so that it's not like mocking you, going, you're behind. So do that. And until then, we'll see you guys in the next video.
Make sure to check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us. And go read.